Editing is what makes the difference between a 4-star book and a 5-star book. But guess what? You don't need to dish out thousands of dollars to a professional editor in order to make your writing sound polished and professional. You just need to be on the lookout for these 5 glaring mistakes that will make your writing sound amateur. And mistake number 3 is something that I didn't even know existed and didn't know how to fix in my own writing until I started using ProWritingAid, which has been a game changer for my editing process. In this video, I'm going to reveal what those 5 mistakes are and how to avoid them, how to fix them in your writing so that your writing will sound professional and so that your readers won't run away screaming. Welcome back if you're new here. I'm Abby and I help writers make their stories matter and make their author dreams come true. And if that's something you're on a mission to do, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel. I post writing videos every Wednesday and I would love to have you here in the community. Editing mistake number 1 is spelling and grammar. This one kind of goes without saying, but if you don't have proper spelling and grammar in your book, it's going to sound like a kid wrote it. This is not to say that if you miss a few typos, your reader will be throwing your book down in disgust and giving it a 1-star review. But if you have weird spelling and typos and grammar mistakes every few pages, your reader is going to have a hard time reading it. It's going to feel sloppy and messy and like you didn't really care enough to put your best effort into making it perfect for the market. Even if you're not self-publishing and you're thinking right now,
oh, Abby, I don't have to worry about that because I'm gonna send my book to an editor and they're gonna clean it up. They're gonna make it sound good.
Really? Really? Don't you want your book to feel as bookshelf ready as possible? Don't you want to impress your future publisher? Luckily, spelling and grammar is one of the easiest things to fix because there are absolute rules to what is correct and what is incorrect. And my favorite tool to use to fix all of these mistakes is ProWritingAid, who is kindly sponsoring today's video. Unlike other editing software that tries to make your writing sound more like a corporate work email, ProWritingAid is especially designed for creative writers. You can set your genre and instantly get tailored suggestions based on industry standards in that particular niche of fiction or nonfiction. I've been using ProWritingAid for a while now, and I can safely say that it has revolutionized the way I edit my books. Instead of overwhelming you with an avalanche of red underlines, it generates a summary report, breaking down your writing into 2 categories: where your document looks great and where your document may need work. I love this right away because it's constructive, encouraging, and not overwhelming. Each category gets its own score, so you get to see at a glance what needs your attention the most and where you should focus your editing efforts. And it's encouraging because it tells you what areas you're actually excelling in and don't need editing. But as you can see from the example here on my screen, the spelling and grammar needs a bit of work. So obviously we want to aim for a score of 100% when it comes to spelling and grammar, but ProWritingAid lets us go through each suggestion at a time, so we can determine which spelling suggestions we want to take and which ones we want to ignore. So obviously anything that is like an obvious typo, we want to fix that. Anywhere that we may have left off a letter, we want to avoid any embarrassing typos if we can. But like I said, ProWritingAid gives you complete creative freedom on which suggestions you take. So for example, here I have a word that I made up called digiscreens, and that's a word that I want ProWritingAid to actually ignore, or rather add to the dictionary of my story, so that way it never highlights this word again as a misspelling, because this is like a special word that's being used in the fantasy world of my book. So when you add that to the dictionary, you will never be bothered to correct the spelling of that word again. But unlike other writing software, I find myself accepting 99% of ProWritingAid's spelling and grammar suggestions. Because like I said, it's built for creative writers, not corporate email writers. So once you've gone through your whole document and perfected your spelling and grammar, it's time to move on to amateur mistake number 2 with editing, and that is sentence length. Your writing can have 0 spelling or grammar mistakes and still be awkward or clumsy or hard to read. Oftentimes, this is due to sentence length. Nothing screams amateur writer like every single sentence having the same length and feeling redundant and dry.
Boring. Boring, dull, boring, predictable.
Because what gives prose a beautiful lyrical ebb and flow and makes it sound like music is varying sentence lengths. We have a rhythm to the way we write. That is what makes prose sound good. Luckily, ProWritingAid has a tool for this. All you have to do is scroll down to your summary report to sentence length and take a look at the data it's collected. When you have a good variety of sentence lengths, your graph here should look like grass that's pretty trim but still has a fair amount of longer blades mixed in. Look at that beautiful grass. If your chart here looks like grass that has been recently mowed down and it's all butchered, you may have too many short sentences. Likewise with long sentences. You don't want nothing but tall grass either. You want a mixture of both, okay? That's what makes writing sound like music. So let's jump back into the computer and look at the sentence length variety of our example story and see where we can improve it. Okay, so to check the sentence length variety in our document, we're going to go up to the toolbar and click on the icon that says length. And here you will see on the sidebar a breakdown of our sentence length, and you can sort of see in a different graph layout how our sentences are flowing. And as you scroll through this data, you can see from this 1,000-foot view what your document looks like as far as the musical ebb and flow of the language that you're using and the sentence variety. So here I can see that there's kind of a problem area where there's a lot of short sentences really close together, not a lot of variety. So to go to this paragraph, I'm just going to click on one of these sentences and I will be brought to that portion of the document. As you can see in this paragraph, it's kind of redundant. We have a lot of short sentences like, Yumi stood still in the dark. She didn't move. If she didn't answer, they would break down the door. They would come inside. They would search the room. They would find the tech. She had made it in secret. She had used the night to hide her work. The masks were illegal. The punishment was death. The astronarchy didn't show mercy. It's so redundant, and we can see that from the data here on this sentence length check. So how can we infuse some more variety into this paragraph to make it sound musical, to make our prose stand out and feel colorful and have an ebb and flow? This opening line is fine. The thunderous pounding of the night watch persisted on the door one level up. But these next few sentences can all be condensed into one sentence. So if I were to rewrite this line, it might come out something more like this. There was no evading them. If Yumi didn't answer the door within the next few minutes, they would break it down and search the workshop. And we can even keep going, delete all of these little short sentences and turn them into one longer flowing sentence. They would discover the forbidden tech she'd been forging in secret under the cover of night. Possession of holographic masks were a guaranteed death sentence by the hands of the astronarchy. She would need to hide the evidence. So as you can see right away, this whole paragraph flows a lot better. It feels a lot more musical. The prose just feels higher quality. So all you have to do to check your sentence length is scroll down this chart and figure out, okay, where are my sentences becoming redundant? And these are the invisible things that you can't necessarily see without data like ProWritingAid gives you. If you're loving what you're seeing so far with ProWritingAid, let me tell you, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This tool is literally like the Swiss Army knife of editing software. Before I started using ProWritingAid, I felt like I was battering my way through the editing process, not sure if each change I made was making my writing better or just making it different. Other editing tools were always trying to change my writing style and make me sound more corporate and polished and change my voice. But now that I use ProWritingAid, I feel like I have the world's best creative writing editor sitting next to me, sipping a cappuccino and telling me exactly what I should tweak about that next sentence to make it chef's kiss. ProWritingAid also uses bank level security to keep your writing safe, and they never use your writing to train their algorithms, which I personally love having that peace of mind, especially in today's world where it seems like AI is lurking behind every corner, watching what you're writing, trying to steal your work. So with ProWritingAid, I can have that peace of mind knowing that while I work to polish my manuscript, my writing is perfectly safe. If you want to try ProWritingAid for free and start leveling up your writing today, click the link below this video. And if you fall in love with it like I did and you want to upgrade to premium, use the code ABBY20 to get 20% off your purchase. Okay, amateur mistake number 3, and this is something I've never heard anybody talk about and I didn't even know existed until I started using ProWritingAid, and that is sticky sentences. Let me explain. Every sentence in your book is comprised of two types of words: working words and glue words. Working words are the most important part of the sentence. They are what give your sentence its core meaning. If you remove just one of those words, the whole thing will collapse. For example, Jenna hurled the basketball from half court and watched it soar. The working words here are Jenna hurled, basketball, half court, watched, and soar. Glue words, on the other hand, are the ones in between the working words, hence the name glue. They may not carry much meaning on their own, but you need them to stick everything else together. However, when you have too many glue words in one sentence, it becomes clumsy and hard to read. For that reason, you want to keep glue words to less than 40% of your writing. If the sentence has more than 60% glue words, it will highlight it in ProWritingAid's sticky sentence report so that you can go in and see if it needs fixing. So let's look at a few sticky sentences in my example story here and see how we can fix them. Okay, so to see our sticky sentence report, we're gonna go up to the top right corner where it says More Reports, click on that, and then click on Sticky. So over here in the sidebar, we can see there are 8 sticky sentences found in this document. So as you can see, the first sticky sentence shows up pretty early in this document. She'd done hundreds of holographic mask fittings, but never like this, never on her little sister Mika in the dead of night with trembling hands. So as I highlight this sentence, you can see the glue words are 53% of the sentence, of but never like this on little in the night with hands. So the cool thing about ProWritingAid is it doesn't just tell you, okay, this is a problem and leave you to guess the rest. It's going to suggest rephrases for you. Now, sometimes the rephrases aren't going to match your style, but the point is to get you thinking about new ways that you could rephrase this sentence and make your writing that much stronger. So for example, here's 2 rephrases. She had experience with many holographic mask fittings, but none compared to this. Never on her little sister Mika in the silence of night, hands shaking. I love this because it makes my brain work in a new way. It makes me think about the sentence in a new way. So instead of she'd done hundreds of, I could say she had experience with many. And already that feels a bit smoother. So what I usually do is I take some of what ProWritingAid suggests here and I kind of blend it with my own writing style, or I blend 2 of them together. Like I like their suggestion here better than the first one, late at night, hands trembling, rather than in the silence of night. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose this suggestion, but I'm going to edit it a little bit to make it more of my own style. So my final version is, she had experience with many holographic mask fittings, but never like this, never on her little sister Mika late at night with trembling hands. So it's tighter, less glue words, it gets to the point faster. Let's scroll down a little bit to another sticky sentence and see how we can improve it. Yumi didn't make it to the door before the night watch battered it down. So this is a pretty short sentence, but you can see that there are 8 of 15 words are glue words. So let's see how we could maybe rephrase this. The night watch broke down the door before Yumi arrived. I like that suggestion because it brings the subject, the point of the sentence, which is the night watch battering down the door, it makes that happen faster and it makes the action of the scene feel more imminent. And let's look at one more sticky sentence and how we can improve it. Yumi couldn't relax until the last footfalls echoed up the stairs, through the door, and out of earshot. Here we can see there's 60% glue words. Let's see what ProWritingAid suggests. Yumi relaxed only when the final footsteps faded, or silence following the last footsteps finally allowed Yumi to relax. So I like the first one a lot better, but I would again add to it with my own style. So Yumi relaxed only when the soldier's footsteps faded out of earshot. That feels more congruent with the style of the scene. So that's how I would take some of that suggestion, but also make it my own. Now, it's important to remember that just because a sentence has a lot of glue words in it, doesn't necessarily mean it's hard to read. Some sentences may need to be sticky because there's just no other way to rewrite it. So bottom line, you're the author here, you're the final authority. You need to look at your sticky sentences and decide, can I clean this up a bit? Can I make this more simple? Or is it cool just as it is? The glue index in ProWritingAid is just there to highlight those potential problem areas that may go overlooked otherwise. It's not gonna write for you, it's not gonna change your writing, but it is going to make suggestions and help you to make your writing more polished and immersive. Amateur editing mistake number 4 is passive voice. In a nutshell, passive voice is this. Instead of saying, the ball was thrown by Sarah, you want to say, Sarah threw the ball. See how much more direct and punchy that is? While passive voice has its uses in like scientific papers and formal documents, when you use it too much in creative writing, it can really slow down your prose and create this weird disconnect between the reader and the action of what's happening. It makes everything feel kind of dry and boring. Let's dive back into our example and look at some passive verbs and see how we can change them to make our writing more juicy and active. Okay, so to find our passive voice, we're going to go to Style in the upper menu, click on that, and the first option here should be passive verbs. So you can go ahead and open that and you'll see all of the instances that ProWritingAid has highlighted where you may be using a passive verb that could be replaced. So as you can see in this paragraph, we have a lot of highlights, a lot of problem areas here, a lot of passive voice. Where could it be hidden? Not in the washroom with Mika. If her sister was found in there, it would be assumed that the smuggling of holographic technology had been done by her. And Yumi would rather be shot than see her sister answer to the crimes she alone was guilty of. Okay, so obviously very cringe. This is a terrible sentence, a terrible paragraph. It's very muddy and clumsy, but we can fix it by simply taking out the passive voice. So as you can see, we're going to have some rephrases suggested to us. So I'm going to go ahead and change the opening to be, but where to hide it? Not in the washroom with Mika. So instead of if her sister was found in there, it would be assumed, we're going to say if they found her sister in there, it would look like she was the one smuggling holographic technology. Was guilty and would rather be shot. Both of those are still passive voice. And we're going to see some suggestions here of how to change that. Yumi would rather die than let her sister take the blame for crimes she didn't commit. I really like that one. So rather die is better than rather be shot, because be shot is passive voice. So this still gets the point across. Yumi would rather die than let her sister take the blame. We see everything happening in visceral thought process as Yumi is experiencing it, and there's no passive voice now. It feels so present and urgent because we are not falling back on that passive voice to carry the action of the scene. And just like with the sticky sentence report, you can go through your whole document like this, one suggestion at a time, look at the passive voice, where you're falling back on a passive verb, look at the suggested rephrases, and then see what you can do to improve your writing from there. And finally, amateur editing mistake number 5, repeats and echoes. I don't know about you, but nothing makes me cringe more than a word repeating itself multiple times in the same sentence. Every time I see this in a published book, I'm inwardly like, God, please, no, no! No! And I understand why writers miss this. When I am reading my own drafts, it amazes me how many times I can read a sentence like 50 times over and miss a glaringly obvious typo that's like sitting right in the middle of the sentence. Comment below and tell me if this ever happens to you, but this happens to me all the time. So I totally understand why people miss repeats and echoes. Thankfully, ProWritingAid has a tool special for pointing these out so that we don't have to make this embarrassing mistake in our final draft. All right, so to find words that are echoing each other or showing up too often in one paragraph, we're going to click on the echoes icon up here and look at any close repeats that might show up throughout our document. So a lot of these will be proper nouns, they will be names of your characters, but you're going to want to go through each one of these and just look and discern with your own judgment which ones are showing up too often and too close to each other. So at a glance, you can see where ProWritingAid has highlighted repeat words, and you can see how close together they really are. This is one of the features I love a lot because this is something that kind of goes unseen if you're not looking for it specifically. So in this paragraph, you can see that we have the words eyes and gaze showing up a lot, like way too much. We have eyes, gaze, eyes, gaze, eyes, gaze. It's like way too much eye movement. And this, I know this is something that I am really guilty of in my first drafts. I will talk a lot about the character's eyes and where they're looking. And this is something that can really fly under the radar if you're not carefully editing. So with a little effort, Yumi even managed to force some tears to the surface. The Dragon Slayer watched her with eyes dark as storm clouds, his gaze steady and unblinking. His gaze moved slowly over her. So obviously this is messy and awful. We need to clean this up. Instead of his gaze steady and unblinking and his gaze slowly moved over her, unsettling in the way his eyes didn't blink, let's delete all of that and change it to the Dragon Slayer watched her with eyes dark as storm clouds, giving her a slow, unnerving once over. It says all the same things without repeat words. Was he imagining her chained up in one of his cells awaiting punishment? And instead of the thought made her want to look away, but his eyes held her, she couldn't shake the weight of that gaze, the thought was enough to turn Yumi's stomach. Because we don't want to fall back on talking about what her eyes are doing or what his eyes are doing. Another thing you should check for is repeats. So up here in the top menu bar next to echoes, you'll see all repeats. And here you can check any repeated words or phrases that appear really close to each other. So in the repeats check, it is broken down into frequent phrases of different lengths. So you can click on these and go through them one at a time and see how often you really need to repeat these phrases, or you can look at these highlights at a glance just in your page view and see where you might need to make some changes. How long did that take? Like 10 minutes of editing time? And already this story is like so much better. The writing quality feels so much more polished and more professional. Believe me when I say this video just barely scratches the surface of what ProWritingAid can do. With over 25 reports that check for overused words, tired cliches, awkward phrasings, and more, this truly is the only toolkit you'll ever need to bring your writing to that next level. One of my favorite features is the chapter critique tool, which gives you instant feedback on your story's strengths, weaknesses, and areas for improvement, focusing on a specific section of your story. And if you want to go beyond the chapter level, you can get expert feedback on your entire story in minutes with manuscript analysis, which dives deep into your story's structure, plot, pacing, characterization, and more, giving you detailed, actionable insights to strengthen your novel. And the best part is that ProWritingAid works across all your apps. Scrivener, Microsoft Word, Google Docs, wherever you write, it can work. I personally love that because I write in Scrivener all the time, and I love how seamlessly it integrates right into my writing workspace. Like I said before, it is the closest you will come to having a professional editor sitting next to you telling you exactly what to change about your manuscript to bring it to that next level and make your writing shine. So click the link below this video to start using ProWritingAid for free and take these 5 mistakes from this video, write them down, and go and run those reports in your own writing. I dare you to see how much you can improve your writing in just a few minutes using ProWritingAid. And if you fall in love with it like I did, make sure you use the code ABBY20 when you upgrade to premium so that you can get 20% off your subscription. Smash that like button if you liked this video, and be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I post writing videos every Wednesday and I would love to have you here in the community. And until next time, my friend, rock on. Shh.